Hi, everyone. We have author Lisa Swift Young here, and she's going to tell us a little bit about herself.
Okay. So, hi, everybody. I've heard a little bit about you guys' story. I think it's phenomenal that you guys are doing this as far as, reading together and kind of sharing information. I am honored that you guys would invite me into your circle. I realize there's a lot of books out there, and for you guys to sort of want to read my book, I am humbled by that. So let me tell you a little bit about me. So my name is Lisa Swift Young, as she mentioned before. I wear a couple different hats, and I'm sure everybody on the phone, everybody who can relate to this, right? So I'm a mom, so I have two adult children. So I'm an empty nester. My husband and I have been married 30 plus years. I'll leave the plus out, but the plus years. I am a full-time working mom, so I've been in corporate America most of my career. I work for a couple different companies. You guys can look it up on my LinkedIn page if you want to know the whole detail of that. But that's not what I'm here today. But I'm also the CEO of Four Curls, which is a hair care brand that my daughter and I started. I'll tell you a little bit more about that because it actually started because of something that we'll talk about in the book. I'm also a success strategy coach. Because I do so many things, people are like, how do you do all of that? So I really kind of help women to sort of pull out their passion. I go back to, I think one of my signature things is I go back to that 8-year-old little girl who is like had all these great dreams. And, somewhere along the way, she did everything everybody else asked her to do, and she was phenomenal at doing it. She never got around to doing what she wanted to do. And so at this point in her life, she's looking to, do some different things. I also am a world traveler. I am fascinated with everything, including the African diaspora. I understand you guys have members all over the world, so that is truly kind of very interesting to me. Some of my favorite countries at this point, I am exploring the continent. 2 years ago, I got a chance to go to Ethiopia and Tanzania. And a few years before that, went to Morocco. My daughter's been to Kenya. No, she's been to Ghana and Liberia. And I hope to sort of check off. My goal is I don't know if I'll be able to hit all 54 countries because I'm low. But hopefully my children and myself, we can all gang up and hit all 54 countries, and that's sort of a goal of mine. But we travel extensively. Our entire family loves to travel. Panama, Havana, Toronto, you name it, I'll pretty much get on a plane and go any place. So you guys can imagine, in this little pandemic right here, I am itching to get out there. So my latest project, which we're going to talk about a little bit, is The Power of Three. And the book is The Christian Gratitude Journal for Renewing Your Faith and Restoring Your Praise. And I hope to have that out the first week of December, if not before Thanksgiving. So I think that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Okay. And that book, do you have that book with you?
I do not. I have a cover. I can probably make sure we post it. I don't know if I sent a cover or not of that particular book. So that's the cover of the book. It will be out again, probably preferably end of this month, but definitely December, the first week of December. So.
Okay. And what inspired you to start writing?
So here's the thing. I've been a professor. So I wrote just because I had to write, lesson plans and curriculums and those types of things. And I did all type of protocol things. And for corporate, you write a lot. Even in this age of digital, no more paper, you still write a lot. So a lot of reports and that type of thing. So I could probably type back to that. I am ABD, or all but dissertation, on my PhD. So I just write. So I think it's one of those things. The book, however, was a surprise to me. So the book, and I'll just go ahead and jump into the first book, which is Pause to Praise. The book kind of I didn't know I was writing when I wrote that book. So we had 2016, if anybody can remember back to 2016, we've had a lot happen since then, but 2016 was particularly pivotal in a couple different ways. For us nationally, the election cycle that we just finished, we were doing that. Philando Castile, Alton Sterling, it was a lot. And I have two adult children. One of them is me. I have a son. And at the same time when that was happening in the world, my immediate family had a series of tragedies that happened. I had an aunt who passed away of cancer. We know I knew she kind of kept it to herself, as you know, as we tend to do, and not maybe share from that standpoint. I had another aunt who had a massive stroke. I had another uncle who had diagnosed with cancer, and another aunt who just died of a massive heart attack, just like and that all happened like in 90 days, all while this was happening over what was going on. So for me, it was just simply, I need to get it out. Like it was one of those things where I was just like, I need to get it out. And so I started writing. So what I did was I recruited my adult children, and I asked them to say, hey, I need to see the positive in this, what's happening, like figure out what's going on. And so I asked them to say, let's just do like gratitudes. I had never heard of a gratitude circle. It was just one of those things where I really just felt like I needed to find something every day that I knew was going to be, different. And so I asked them to just text me every day, like today I'm thankful for, today I'm grateful for. So the three of us kind of did this every day. And about 2.5 years later, I had like 2,000 of these, because 3 times, how many days. And I was like, what am I supposed to do? And that's when I got that's a book. And then I went, oh, okay, well, I'm glad I didn't know that before I started, because I would not have, that was not my intent. So that book was literally, is literally stories of things that I either shared with them or we had conversations about that happened because of that. So I had been writing for work and some other things, and, kind of getting that skill down. But this was definitely not, that was not the intent when I started. It was just simply a way to just capture it. And then, after looking through my phone and history of 3, years of 3 people doing it every day for 365 days, or was it 900 and 1,000 something days, or not, about 1,500 days times 3, you can see the numbers, where I was like, okay. And then it was like, oh, that's a book. That was what that was for. I was like, oh, okay. I'm gonna walk in that. So that's how it started.
Okay. And you said you wrote how many books too?
So I have the Pause to Praise book was the first book that I actually published. I've, done like conflict resolution workbooks and things like that for a corporate that I plan to go back and publish now that I realized I have this, hopefully this gift. The next book though will be my second official published book.
Okay. So tell us about your book.
So the new book is really about, what I found in that process of doing that gratitude with my adult children from that standpoint, and the stories that I shared in the first book, Pause to Praise, I found that we were really able to focus and really get some things done. We were able to sort of, have confidence in a crisis. We were able to sort of like see ourselves out of a situation. And despite the optics of what's happening, we started to see options that we hadn't seen before, that always existed, but we just didn't see them. And out of that book, we actually started, 4 Curls kind of came out of that book. So that brand came out of the book. We have a family foundation. So Change We Seek Foundation is a family foundation that we basically give funds to for organizations that teach financial literacy to communities of color. So we help support those. So like those things were just like, wow, those kind of things kind of happen. So the second book, The Power of 3, goes back to now realizing that it was really just the power of 3. It was really that sort of, Matthew 18, 19, and 20, which, for those of you who are of the Christian faith, or you can look it up at this point, if 2 or 3 are gathered in his name and touch and agree, anything you ask will be given to you. And then the power of 3 was like, it was simply like, that was it. That was it all along. It was that all we had to do was touch and agree, and all these things would be revealed. My son works for the government. He is in customs. And so that was something he had been, pursuing for a while, and finally got into that. My daughter, I mentioned, she's written a book, and all those other things happen. And I realized that those really happened because of that commitment that we made during this really challenging time. So the stories in this book are really about teaching other people how and why each of these things that we talk about are really important to helping them sort of getting to where they need to get to wins faster, to how to get them to success, regardless of what's happening around them. And so that's sort of where the book, it kind of really helps people to say, okay, how do I do this? How do I create this for myself? I know you guys started off small and it grew to something big. So it's something very similar to where you're talking about the synergy that happens when 2 or 3 people kind of get together and try to commit to something. And so how do we start off small? How do we start off with just those 2 or 3 people committed, and then all the things that come outside of it? So I'd like for people to, sort of come through this pandemic with that perspective. And this is not forsaking that, it is death and devastation all around us. And so that is not, sort of a Pollyanna approach of like, okay, everything's fine. But I know for us, during that 2016 period of time, it was really an opportunity for us to say, okay, what do we do differently? Because for us in the gratitude process, when you do the gratitudes and you do them as individual, the interesting part about it is that I might do mine in the morning and my son might do his in the afternoon, my daughter might do hers in the evening. So there was 3 different points during the day where I could turn from whatever was happening and turn towards the gratitude, whatever that happened to be for that day. And so there was 3 different opportunities where it kept me from like spinning out. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And I hope for other people it makes sense as well. So in those, you never know. I mean, everyone has gotten a text from somebody and it was just at the right time, right? I was like, how did you know? This was intentionally creating those situations where every day they had no idea what was happening. My son lives in North Carolina at the time. My daughter lived in Detroit and I lived in Tennessee. So they had no idea what was facing me or what I was doing that day. But those came through at points where it was like, okay, I could either kind of go into this or I could be like, yeah, let's go with what that just happened and kind of go with that. So the book is really about teaching people how to create that. And it's super simple. I almost felt guilty writing the book because I felt like people, like everybody knows this, but I have had so many people be like, but you know what, with everything going on, sometimes it's that's the stuff we forget. And so that's what the book is really about.
Absolutely. And how did you come up with the cover for the book?
Well, I kind of played off of the first book. I like the idea of a flower in the first book because it was blooming and I felt like it was an opportunity to be, like open. And I guess, as a mom, because I wrote it from that perspective of my adult children, I was very open with them. And I wanted to sort of have that. The second book there's lavender on the front of it. And so calm, right? Because I figured, I did not, when I wrote this book and kind of went with that, I had no idea what was going to happen, but I kind of just went toward what I wanted to happen. That's sort of the whole concept for those of you who've seen the movie or the documentary, The Secret, moving towards those things which you want to be with intentionality. And so that the flower or the lavender on the front of that was really more about the calm. That's what I wanted. And so I created that. And I wanted people to, when they saw the cover of the book, to hopefully that would emulate that. That color tends to be a color that's calming. And that's what I wanted people to to translate, that this will be something that will sort of, center you in some kind of way.
Okay. I like that idea. And how long did it take you to finish writing the book?
Well, so the interesting part, the first book, as I mentioned, it was a 3-year process before I actually put it, made it happen. 2-year process. It was 2016 we started, and then 2019. So it was 3 years when I actually wrote the book. The second book was a little bit easier because you've done it, right? It's like anything else. Once you kind of like got out of your head and went, the first book was like, I don't know if I should be doing this, and this doesn't even make any sense. And, and the interesting thing about the first book, I had written it, once I got all of the quotes and stuff out and I organized everything and kind of went through it and kind of created stories around them, it literally sat on my desk, behind my desk. Well, I should say, basically behind me, if I was sitting at my desk, in chapters on the floor, on the wall for a year.
Wow.
Because I could not. It was too personal. It was too painful. It was too a lot, right? So a long story is it didn't take long. Once I sort of sat down and got a plan and got structure, it was done in 90 days. It went from that part of once, because I had to, go through editing and format, all the different pieces that are required to do a book. But 90 days after I sort of went, okay, that's enough. Then it was 90 days and the first book was born, if you will.
Okay. And where can we purchase your books?
So the book is available on Amazon. No surprise there from that standpoint. The ebook will be available, as I mentioned, probably the first part of December, if not the late part of November. And then it will then be available through all the vast media through distributors. Because the Pause to Praise book, I think you can get it on at Walmart, at Target. It's in wide distribution. If you Google it, you can find it any place you want to. And that one is available in ebook, paperback, and hardback. This one will also eventually be in all three formats.
Okay. And how do you think being a writer has helped you as a person?
I definitely feel like, I think it's helped with the confidence piece. I think it's one of those things where, this is something I'm doing outside the confines of what the expectations were. I think writers are given some liberties to be creative, where, maybe in our corporate positions or in our family structures, we have somewhat of, like, we have norms to follow. Writers sort of have a different piece. I think about Stacey Abrams, right? So for those who are familiar with Stacey Abrams out of Georgia, she was an author first, and I think her pen name is Selena Montgomery, if I can remember correctly. And so she wrote those articles, and they're sort of I don't know if you guys have read Brenda Jackson or any of her stuff.
No.
So anyway, there's some erotic type things, right? so I think, we see Stacey Abrams as one person right now, but that gave her a release to be someone different and someone that people didn't expect. And that's still a part of her. So that's Selena, I think it's Selena Montgomery is Stacey Abrams' pen name in her erotic books. And so I think it gives you freedom. And I think it gives you sort of that sort of like, who is it you would be if you didn't have to confine to what everybody wanted, going back to asking for what you want and not what you think you can get. I think that's where, I think that's how it's changed me, because I think it's helped me to sort of like see beyond where I am right now. And a book is something that will be here past you,
Yes.
right? That people will be able to pick up and be like, oh, like that type of thing. And so I think for me, that's where it's been.
Okay. And where can we find you on social media?
So I have a website. Website is Lisa, LISASWIFT Young, YOUNG.com. So that's it. No hyphens, no nothing. So you can go there. LinkedIn, you can find me either on LinkedIn. The company, the consulting company is called Change We Seek. So the Change We Seek is part of the consulting and coaching, as well as the foundation. So that's on LinkedIn. If you go to my profile, you can find that as well. Facebook, Pause, PAUSE, the number 2, Praise, PRAISE. And you can find me there on Facebook. Instagram is Pause to Praise Books. And I think that's it. I'm not on Twitter yet. Gonna work on that. But those are, I think you can find me. And then you can always just email me at lmswift, SWIFT, young@gmail.com. So old school, you can always do that.
Okay. And is there anything else that you would like to tell us about your books?
I think the thing is that I think my books are for people who are looking for, I would say, options instead of the optics. I think if you're trying to sort of see yourself in a different space, and you truly believe that you were brought here for a purpose and a reason, and you're trying to figure out a very simple way to do it, I think this is an opportunity. And I do want people to realize, so my books are of the Christian faith, so I will focus on that. But I do have, I dabble a little bit as far as, I think in the book I have an Arabic proverb in there as well. And then a couple quotes from Muhammad Ali. So obviously from the Muslim faith. But I think it's just all inclusive. So it is to a spiritual slant from the standpoint of the spirituality of it. So I think people who could appreciate the mixture of faiths, but Christianity being, sort of the piece that one of my ministers mentioned before. He goes, I can talk to anybody from every different faith. We can talk about Buddha, Allah, whoever. When I come in, I'm gonna be on Jesus. When I leave, I'm gonna be on Jesus. So I remember him saying that, and I was like, okay, all right. And so I think that's sort of where, I think my books are from that standpoint. So I would think that, I would hope that people would could appreciate the opportunity to sort of just be more simple. I think the simple things sometimes are lost on some of the more elaborate. I know I'm an overthinker. And if you find yourself as an overthinker, overanalyzing, these are really simple, like, I can do this right now. Like, I don't have to, like, I'm grateful I can look out the window, that I have eyes to see. I'm grateful, like those types of things that sometimes like, it doesn't have to be this, like long piece. It's like, I'm grateful for the activity of my limbs. Like those types of things. If you're struggling to find those things, or if you just want to be reminded and ground yourself, I think that if this would be an opportunity for, somebody to enjoy the book and get something from it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. You've been amazing. Thank you so much for, again, inviting me in. I don't take that lightly. My grandmama would have said, bring a gift if you come for this standpoint. So as a part of that, I do have a gift. I will send you a link to a free 7-day gratitude journal. So it's just a PDF you can just download if it's something you want to do on your own. I want to make sure, because that would be, the Southern thing to do is bring a gift. So I want to make sure that people have a gift. So I'll send you the link and you can share it with your community if they're interested in just downloading it. There's no, nothing with that. Just, want to make sure that I say thank you in the proper way. And so this 7-day gratitude journal will be headed your way. And so I will send you a link along with the other information you asked me for and after this interview.
Okay, everyone, that was author Lisa Swift Young letting us know about her books. Make sure you like this video and subscribe below.